What's going on, warriors? It's your boy Jason Cristo. Welcome to another episode. In today's episode, guys, I want to talk about being misdiagnosed as a diabetic, especially if you are a type 2 diabetic. Maybe you know someone who might have been misdiagnosed. It's very important. It's going to help to show you some signs that might point towards you being misdiagnosed. So stick around. I'm going to tell you guys exactly what to do and exactly what tests to ask for and the signs and the symptoms to look out for. If it's your first time on this channel, I help diabetics to manage their diabetes by controlling their blood sugars and helping them to burn stubborn body fat and build lean muscle without fad diets or long hours working out. As you guys know, diabetics, we are busy. I also do supplement reviews and I put out workout routines also to make sure you're powering through your workouts. And if any of that sounds good, make sure you guys smash that subscribe button down below. Make sure you guys hit that bell notification so you get notified when I drop the videos. And make sure you guys hit that like button. It really just helps me out in terms of getting these videos out there to you guys. I love you guys. I don't know why I'm smacking my bicep, but I started a community to help busy diabetics burn stubborn body fat, control their blood sugars, and build lean muscles without fad dieting or long hours working out. So if that sounds good and you guys need just overall empowerment to help put you on the right path with your diabetes, make sure you guys click the link. I'll put it in the description. And make sure you guys stay till the end of this video because I'm going to give away my most important tip when it comes to the misdiagnosis. Okay, so when we're looking at type 2 diabetes are people who are producing too much insulin, but they're insulin resistant, so the cells are no longer responding to the hormone insulin when it's knocking at the cell door. So it doesn't open up and you don't get sugar into the body cells because, again, insulin is meant to help to shuttle sugar into the cells. In type 1 diabetes, our beta cells have been attacked by our own body, and so we no longer produce insulin, and so we need to take injections. So the problem is a lot of type 2 diabetics, when they start getting symptoms, they get tests run by their doctors. Sometimes the tests are not deep enough. And so what ends up happening is maybe they took an A1C to measure where their average blood sugar was in 6 months, and it comes back slightly high, and so they say that you're pre-diabetic or you're on the cusp of being a type 2 diabetic. So how do you know if you're somebody who has possibly been misdiagnosed as a type 2 diabetic? Now, one of the things is if you're somebody who feels like you are genuinely doing everything right, you're eating right, you're exercising, your blood sugars for some reason, no matter how hard you try, just cannot stay in a normal range. Or if you're somebody who started off as a type 2 diabetic and now it's about 6 months to a year and a half to 2 years later, and everything you were doing before to manage your blood sugar levels and control them is no longer working, and so now your blood sugar is starting to go higher and higher despite the metformin or despite the lifestyle changes you made that were working before and are not working now. And this is something that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go to your doctor and ask for what's called a C-peptide test and a GAD antibody test. Now, the beta cells in your pancreas produce insulin. When insulin is produced, it leaves what's called a C-peptide. And C-peptide is a byproduct of insulin being made in your body's pancreas. Peptides are just strings of amino acids, anywhere between about 2 to 50 amino acids. And so they're looking for a specific peptide called C-peptide when that happens when insulin is made. And so when they run this C-peptide test, if it shows that you have a high amount of C-peptide in your system, chances are you're a type 2 diabetic because type 2 diabetics, again, produce a lot of insulin. It's just the cells are not responding to that insulin. Now, if you have low levels of C-peptide, it shows that your body is not necessarily producing insulin, and so you would be more labeled as a type 1 diabetic and fall into that category. The second test you're going to want to ask for is called a GAD antibody test. Now, what this does is because the beta cells of your pancreas are being destroyed with a type 1 diabetic, what ends up happening is the destruction of those beta cells is going to leave certain antibodies behind. Those antibodies that get left behind can be found in a GAD antibody test. And so if this shows up in that test at high amounts, it shows that you're a type 1 diabetic. And so you have the combination of the GAD antibody test and the C-peptide test, which can definitively tell you if you are a type 1 diabetic or a type 2 diabetic. What it can also show you is maybe you're a type 1.5 diabetic, or you are, another term is LADA, which just means latent autoimmune diabetes in adults. And just to get sentimental with you guys, it could also be called the honeymoon phase. Somebody that's in the honeymoon phase, all it means is that their body over time is losing the ability to make insulin. So they might still produce a little bit of insulin, but over time that level is decreasing. And so that would explain why initially you might be labeled as a type 2 diabetic, because your body is still producing a certain amount of insulin, but over time that could plummet fast, it could plummet slow, and all of a sudden you see that what was working before is not working now because of that honeymoon phase coming to an end. This phase could last anywhere between a month and 13 years. A wide spread between what can happen in the middle with any given person. But that's why it's important, again, to go back to the drawing board if any of this is resonating, and make sure you're getting the right tests in order to help you out to find out for sure whether or not you are a type 1 or you are a type 2 diabetic. Don't leave it to chance, because again, this is something that can really help you to regain more control back over your blood sugars. It can remove the frustration. You got the peace of mind of knowing that has nothing to do with you. You've just been misdiagnosed. Most important thing, you're a type 1 diabetic and you've become and you're just learning everything and you're growing through the process, or you're somebody who was a type 2 diabetic and now you're on insulin injections. First thing is, make sure that you learn your insulin to carb ratio. I'm gonna do a video on insulin to carb ratios and a good way for you guys to learn. And I'll also tag in protein as well, because you need to factor in protein with the insulin shots that you're giving yourself, because protein through gluconeogenesis can break down into sugars as well. And so sometimes you wanna calculate about 50% from your protein as part of glucose, as part of the glucose, because some of it will break down into glucose, and that can help you out as well. But the other thing you want to make sure, especially for someone who was a type 2 diabetic or was a type 2 diabetic and now you're type 1, is that you always carry sugar on you, and never go to bed and give yourself an insulin shot if you're just starting out until you feel more comfortable about what you're doing. And when I say that, if you eat really close to your bed and then you give yourself an insulin shot and you're going to sleep, you could run into some problems, right? Especially if you're on an insulin pump, maybe you don't hear your alarm. There's some certain things that can happen. So that's a word of caution. Just learn your ratios, get more comfortable with those ratios. And then once you get more comfortable with those ratios, you can do more things, you can widen it out, and you'll be fine. It's your boy, Jason Cristo. I love you guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble, because I go off on tangents sometimes, as you guys know me. But I do love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next episode. I really hope that helps someone out.